Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our evening session of the Town Board meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. This evening's prayer will be led by Reverend Jose Tennis of St. Kilian Roman Catholic Church in Farmingdale. St. Kilian Roman Catholic Church has a long, rich history in Farmingdale, dating back to 1896. St. Kilian Church serves as a focal point for many parishioners in Farmingdale and the surrounding communities, and it is known for its active and devoted congregation that serves the Lord and the Farmingdale community. Now I'd like to welcome Father Jose up to the podium to lead us in prayer.
On top of that, I was baptized there.
There you go.
Still stayed up.
Good evening, everyone. I will pray in Spanish, after I will pray in English. Señor Dios nuestro, qué admirable es tu nombre en toda la tierra, qué es el hombre para que pienses en él, el ser humano para que lo cuides. Lo hiciste poco inferior a los ángeles, lo coronaste de gloria y esplendor. Le diste dominio sobre las obras de tus manos, todo lo pusiste bajo tus pies, todos los rebaños y ganados, y hasta los animales silvestres. Señor Dios nuestro, qué admirable es tu nombre en toda la tierra. Let us pray. O God, strength of those who hope in you, graciously hear our pleas, and since without your moral faculty can do nothing, grant us always the help of your grace, that in following your commands, we may please you by our results in our deeds. Amen. May God bless us all.
Amen. And ladies and gentlemen, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to ask up and introduce Lou Savanetti and Anchor Johansson from Locust Valley.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen, to your service to the community and to your service to America. Greatly appreciated. And now, will Town Clerk James Altadonna please poll the board?
Sure. Supervisor Saladino?
Present?
Councilman Muscarella?
Here.
Councilman McEnone?
I am here.
Councilwoman Alessia?
Here, good evening, Jim.
Good evening. Councilwoman Johnson?
Here.
Councilman Imbroda?
Present.
And Councilman Hand.
Here.
Would you like me to reread the hearing?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hearing budget to consider the preliminary budget for the town of Oyster Bay for the year of 2018.
Okay. We have some speakers on this, and we are in a continuation. We need a motion to
Do we have any speakers?
We do.
Okay, so no.
We
don't.
do. Okay. We're going to continue on. We've been at it since approximately from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We can go over the highlights if someone needs that information. Some of the folks were here this morning. We'd be happy to do that, but let's call up our speakers and we'll see if we can just go from there. We have some speakers. It looks as though the slips that I have are unrelated to the budget. So let me ask any speaker who would like to come up in response to our budget. Is there someone who would like to do that? Please come up, sir. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening.
Would you kindly start off by giving us your name and address
Yes.
for the record?
Jerry Ring. I live at 70 Crescent Drive, Old Bethpage, New York, 11804. And I have two questions. First, I noticed in the various literature that's been mailed out, or I've seen online or on the website, that there's a promise that for cost control and $3 million in salary savings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering then why the salaries in the executive section of the budget was increasing by 6%,
Okay. First of all,
$500,000.
Sure. And you had a second question?
Yes, I also understand that there's a promise that there's no new capital spending in 2017.
2017, no capital spending, some capital spending in 2018.
Does that include bond anticipation notes?
Let's bring up our Director of Finance. Any other questions before I have him come up?
That's sufficient for now, because I noticed
Okay.
on Emma that the town is entering in borrowing $125 million in bond anticipation notes payable in 2018, and you're borrowing in 2017. So I was wondering, how does that square with the pledge for no capital spending?
Okay. If you'd kindly take a seat, we'll get those questions answered for you right now. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Supervisor and Town Board. I can address both of the questions that were posed.
Could you just identify yourself for the people that weren't here this morning?
Yes, sorry, Councilman. My name is Rob D'Arienzo. I am the Director of Finance for the Town of Oyster Bay. With regards to our salaries, our statement has been that full-time salaries are reduced by $3 million when you compare the 2018 budget to the 2017 amended budget. Overall salaries are down by $1.7 million. There's multiple components to our overall salaries, not just full-time salaries. So full-time salaries are down roughly $3 million, overtime is down roughly $1 million, and seasonals are up roughly $2 million, with a net of a reduction of roughly $2 million. So that explains the salaries in the executive summary on page 1 of the budget. The 2017 amended budget shows salaries of $83,615,876. The preliminary budget for 2018 shows salaries of $81,980,180. That's a reduction of $1.7 million, not an increase.
Okay, and the next question the gentleman had was about capital spending. Let's talk about our capital spending in 2017, where it came from.
Right, so our statement has been that the town has issued no new money for capital purposes in 2017. The borrowing that the resident was referring to from February 2nd of this year was a complete renewal or conversion of existing debt. There was no new money issued. In June of this year, we did issue $20 million in new bans, but they were exclusively for our special districts, not for town purposes. So the statement that you have been making is in fact true. We have issued not one dime in new money for capital purposes in 2017.
This is all part and parcel to our plan of reduction of our total debt. To date, we have reduced over $71 million of our total debt by year's end, which is December 31st, 2017. We will have reduced our total debt by over $84 million, about $84.4 million. And in our 2018 budget, we have slated a reduction of debt by approximately 50 million. The combination of the 2 years equals just under 22% of the total debt the town is responsible for. The plan is to continue to chip away at the debt more rapidly than was scheduled. We are reducing our debt. We're closing up the ongoing deficit in the town. There is no structural deficit. This is a 100% balanced budget, and we will continue to bring those savings about while cutting taxes, doing all of the above. We're very proud of this budget. This is a budget with no gimmicks, no one-shots, no games, no diversions. This is a budget that our town is extremely proud of, and quite frankly, it's the best budget this town has had in many, many years. It's very important to continue to reduce the total debt in the town. It will assist in raising our bond rating. We have a 1, 3, 5, 6-year plan to remove the debt from the town, get that back under control, to close up and end an ongoing deficit. In 2017, we reduced that deficit and the ongoing deficit in the budget by $10 million, from $27 million down to $17 million. And in 2018, there'll be another $3 million of reduction in the ongoing deficit, as well as the tremendous reduction in total debt, as well as a tax cut that the residents will feel and appreciate as we stay true to all our obligations, including our contractual obligations with the workforce, and continue to bring great efficiencies to save money in so many different ways. We talked about that earlier today. $500,000 a year savings in our electric bill by converting to LED lighting. Tremendous amount of savings. We're now, instead of paying to have our recyclables removed, we are being paid. We have taken away a line item of $350,000 in our budget. That was for the recyclable removal. We now will be paid a significant amount of money. We're looking at, was that $350,000 a year?
A $350,000 elimination of an expense, and we estimate roughly $100,000 in revenue, which was not budgeted for in our conservative fashion of seeing what comes in, and that money will go towards surplus in the solid waste fund.
We are approaching this budget with very conservative estimates. One only has to open our daily paper to see many articles where municipalities are accused of overestimating revenue. We're doing just the opposite. We're taking a very conservative approach at my direction to our revenue projections, and we are also doing the same on expenditures in a very proper fashion so that we are getting the town back on track financially, and we're exceptionally proud of this budget. Sure, come on back up.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to clarify, because as I said, on the website, it says salaries are going down, but when you look at the budget, they're increasing by $5 million, or 6%, so I'm not sure what the comparison is.
The net of the full-time salaries is going down, as well as the net of all salaries. Okay. When everything is combined, you see, Mr. D'Arienzo, just repeat that portion.
$82 million is the preliminary in the 2018, and 77 was the adopted. So 81 is bigger than 77, I see an increase.
Let's clarify this so you get it right.
Part two is that in a particular specific question is in the executive section, which I believe is your office, salaries are proposed at $1.2 million, a $500,000 increase over the adopted budget of $767. So I was wondering, in your area, what's the actual driving force of that increase?
You're a taxpayer, right?
Yes.
Okay. You want to see the quality services and you want to see taxes going down, correct? That's exactly what we're achieving with this budget. Mr. D'Arienzo, let's talk about the specifics, please. Thank you.
On page 1 of our budget, we show the 2017 adopted figures, and we show the 2017 amended figures. The numbers that I'm speaking about compare the 2018 budget versus the 2017 amended budget. For those of you who were here last year, the budget we adopted was put in place at a time when there was no union contract in place. So our adopted budget contemplated for layoffs in the amount of 10% of our overall budget. When the union contract was put in place in January of 2017, a very large budget transfer was required to get the salaries back up where they belong. So In fact, the 2017 amended column is the number we're comparing things to because that's more realistic. The 10% layoffs never came to pass. So in this case, the 2017 adopted figures are not accurate. That is why we're comparing them to the 2017 amended figures.
So now we're using the accurate numbers as they occurred in 2017 and what we will accurately be doing in 2018.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Could you address the question about the executive?
Sure. During 2017 and 2016, there was no deputy supervisor in place. The former town attorney held both roles, and so the deputy supervisor's position was unfunded. When you became supervisor, it's only natural for you to need to add a couple of people to your staff. Also, the former supervisor reduced his salary by the amount of the pension he was receiving. So the salary for the supervisor was vastly understated. The third part of this is, as part of this budget, the Department of Economic Development is being folded into the supervisor's office. So there's an additional salary that has been added to your budget for that purpose for an employee who has not yet joined the staff but should in 2018.
So we have
Department was eliminated. It was just transferred from one to the
right,
other.
a consolidation of the two departments.
That's
into one.
correct, and you can see that figure if anyone who has a book looks at the departmental estimate versus the tentative and preliminary, you'll see an increase of $111,000. So those three factors are the three main reasons it went from what you see in the adopted figure to what you see in the preliminary figure.
Well, thank you. We are continuing to find consolidations, continuing to find greater efficiencies, and continuing to run the town of Oyster Bay in a most appropriate and efficient manner. And it should be pointed out that a deputy supervisor is part and parcel to the history of the town. Supervisor Yavoli had a deputy supervisor. Chuck Johnson was his name, a very nice guy. He's remembered and loved by so many. Supervisor Delegati had a deputy supervisor. Supervisor, I mentioned Yavoli. Supervisor Burke had a deputy supervisor. Supervisor Colby had a deputy supervisor. And that's been an important process and part of efficiently and properly running the town of Oyster Bay for many, many decades. Thank you, Mr. D'Arienzo.
No problem.
Next speaker is Deborah Bonifacio.
I don't think she's speaking on the budget.
It looks as though you're not speaking on the budget. Is that the case? Okay, okay. Glenn and Alfred Pollock, are you speaking on the budget? It says bamboo here. No? Okay. Thomas Hessel?
Yes, it's about parks.
Not on the budget. Okay. Rob Bruscia?
Not budget.
Not budget related. So only one hand went up as related to the budget. Second hand. Come on up, sir. How you doing today?
Good, Supervisor, how are you?
It's good to see you.
See you again. My name is Shanu. I'm from 11 Birch Drive, Plainview, New York, 11803. How much are we budgeting for political ad flyers in 2018? I just want to know that. Zero?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right, just want to make sure. And now I don't understand the part about how we paid off the debt. Exactly, where did you find this 70 million from, or this 50 million?
As we went through it this morning, we went through a very long process of creating great efficiencies. We dedicated extra monies to paying the debt down more quickly. We created consolidations.
From where, though?
We cut out a lot of the outside consultants that used to be paid in the town, and we turned that money over to paying down the debt. We created efficiencies. We sold off obsolete equipment and trucks. We made consolidations. We consolidated 6 departments into one. Some were departments and divisions, but we created a consolidation. We cut out spending department after department. One example is in the Department of Youth and Community Services, where the town provides many services, including our very, very popular Music Under the Stars. I believe I saw you at one of the shows.
Fabulous, yeah.
Yeah, did you like it? You had fun?
I don't remember. I go to a lot of things.
They're
so.
great. A lot of people, thousands of people go. So we provided the same number of nights and the fireworks and spent 45% less than in previous years. So we had many, many examples of consolidations, of savings. We replaced lighting in the town with LED lighting and greatly reduced our lighting costs. We have, as I mentioned, sold off many vehicles, including the previous supervisor's two LTDs. And we consistently found savings and spoke and worked with each and every department to spend less, cut waste. The overtime alone, Mr. D'Arienzo, was that $500,000 less in overtime this year? The overtime in 2017 that we cut out, what was the total savings on the reduction of overtime?
Between $500,000 and $1 million.
So all of these, of this proper process in running government created many, many savings, which allowed us to speed up and increase our payments to paying down the debt.
Okay, all right.
Very successful, by the way.
Also, in the budget, what is the inter-revenue account 02801, and why is it increasing from 10 million to 30 million?
I'll tell you what, why don't you give us all your questions, and as has been the process with everyone else, tell us all the things you'd like answered, and then I'll bring Mr. D'Arienzo up, and we'll answer your questions.
That's it, that's about it.
Okay.
Supervisor, if I can elaborate on the answer you just provided with regards to the debt. Many of the things you described help us to run our operating budget more efficiently and in a more streamlined fashion in 2017. The reason we were able to reduce our debt by $85 million this year is strictly because we issued no new debt in 2017. We paid down what was scheduled. We paid more than we had to on our bands, and that was due to our increased cash position. It really is that simple. By not issuing debt, it helps you reduce your debt faster. In a typical year, we would pay down debt and also issue debt. And so the net effect would either be an increase to our overall debt or a slight decrease to our overall debt. In the past 10 years, it's been increases. We've issued more debt than we paid down. In this year, under your direction, we took a drastic approach to pay down our debt and not issue $1 in new debt. It's really that simple. With regards to account 02801, interfund revenues, the answer to that question is this. It's twofold. There are various departments in the town that perform functions and services for the entire town. One example is central vehicle maintenance. Those are the workers who handle the fleet for the entire town. So their budget is allocated to every other department in the town based on that department's usage of CVM's time and resources. A department like sanitation will have a larger equipment maintenance charge than, say, the Department of Planning and Development, because they have many more trucks on the road, many more trucks that require repairs. So every fund in the budget, other than the general fund, will have a line, I think it's 49,100, which is equipment maintenance charge. And if you add up all the equipment maintenance charges in the budget, those funds pay the general fund a revenue. Those departments are paying their share to the general fund to offset the expenses of central vehicle maintenance. The other portion of interfund revenues is what we call administrative cost. It's very similar. Every department and every fund in the town, other than the general fund, pays 11% of their total budget back to the general fund in the form of an interfund revenue. The reason that happens is because many departments in the general fund, for example, the controller's office, who takes in the cash for every department, pays the bills for every department. Town attorney's office provides legal services for every department in the town. General services provides all of the general services type of items, whether it be supplies, custodial services to every department in the town. So every department in the town pays an 11% admin fee to the general fund. So those two, if you add up every administrative cost, which I think it's account 49,200 in every budget, every amount for account 49,200 plus every amount for account 49,100, administrative cost and equipment maintenance charge, goes back to the general fund in the form of interfund revenue. Now, to ask why it went from $9 million and change to $30 million and change is a valid question, and here's my explanation. In 2017, we had a tax increase of 11.5%. The design of the budget was to generate a surplus, a large surplus, to help us lower the cumulative deficit. The only way to lower a cumulative deficit is to either understate revenues or overstate expenses. So knowingly, we put forth a budget that said that the budgeted amount for interfund revenues would be $9 million and change, even though I knew that account would generate roughly $29 million in revenue. I knew that revenue account would take in much more money than was budgeted. That's a way you can generate surplus and help reduce the cumulative deficit. There's really no other way to do that. If we had a completely balanced budget that neither generated a surplus nor a deficit, then our cumulative deficit would be unaffected.
But we were able then to greatly reduce our cumulative deficit to the tune of $10 million.
At a minimum. Obviously, the year is still going on. I'm saying $10 million in a very conservative, to a very conservative amount. I believe it will be a little bit higher. But the point is, we had to lower a revenue somewhere, and that was a very large revenue account where I can get it done all in one spot. And now that we have this year's budget, you'll see that, again, I said earlier this morning that the 2018 budget is projected to have a surplus in the range of $3 to $4 million. And I did a similar thing this year. There are certain revenue accounts that I understated. They will generate a surplus, which will help us lower our cumulative deficit, which will help us increase our bond rating, which will lead to lowered interest costs when, in fact, we do choose to issue the smaller amounts of debt in the near future. This is all a designed plan to get our bond rating back in shape, to lower the interest costs on our debt issuances for the good of our taxpayers.
And again, there is no structural deficit in this budget.
Again, just the opposite. There's a structural surplus. If every single number in this budget came to fruition, we'd have a surplus, again, in the range of $3 to $4 million, and that might be even being a little conservative. I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver.
And in our conversations, have I instructed you to take a very, very conservative approach in estimating our revenues?
Absolutely. You want to make sure that we don't have pie-in-the-sky revenue projections. We want to make sure we hit our marks and then do better and exceed them.
And as well as on the expenditure side, we were very, very careful to account for every expenditure. For instance, we didn't even account for the fact that our recyclables will be generating money, so that will be just additional funding.
That's one revenue that was not accounted for. That's just, for lack of a better term, free money that will come in as surplus to the solid waste district.
To put the town in a much better financial position.
That's just one small example. There are accounts that are, $1 million and hundreds of thousands short. So that's just one example. But throughout the budget, we were conservative in our estimates.
By short, you mean?
Short in a good way.
Short in a good way, that
Yes.
This is money, revenues that we did not account for, to be exceedingly cautious and conservative.
Right, either not accounted for at all or accounted for at a lower amount than I expect to receive.
Mr. D'Arienzo, we're not going to stop, though. We're going to look to, some of the state wants to do combined services, maybe eliminate some departments, do away with some high-positioned chairs.
There's no reason to ever stop. There's,
Good. I'd like to work with you on this for the next coming year.
I'd
See
be
where we
happy
could
to.
Somehow trim the fat and combine departments and
Continue
make
to
us a little
save
more.
money.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to meet with you
Continue to
anytime.
save money.
you got it, Mr. D'Arienzo. I'm going to take you up on that.
Okay,
Good. Thank you.
thank you.
Well, we have speakers on issues unrelated to the budget, but
We're going to close that hearing then.
we just want to make sure that we have listened to any member of the public who'd still like to be heard on the budget. All right. So may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I make a motion that the public hearing be closed and the decision be reserved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. The ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, we fully intend to work with all the suggestions and input of our board members. We had some good suggestions from the public. We're leaving the roles open for people to contact us by letter or email, and we're going to continue to hammer out the most cost-saving and, quite frankly, the best budget of any municipality on Long Island this year. We're very proud of this budget, but we continue to work with you and quite frankly, to work with each other. And I'd like to thank my colleagues on the town board for all your very positive suggestions and the very professional manner in which we have been deliberating on this budget. And we can guarantee that we will be voting on this budget prior to November. All right, thank you very much. Now, moving on, we have some other speakers on a number of other issues. The first is Deborah Bonifacio.
Also, Kyle Paichucky, can he join
Sure,
me as well?
sure.
Thank you.
Glad you're both here. Could you start off by both identifying yourselves and
Sure.
giving us your addresses?
Sure, Kyle Paichucky, P as in Peter, I-E, C-H-U-C-K-I. It's 33 Adams Street, Oyster Bay, New York. We met at the
Yes.
fair at the Lions Club.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And Deborah Bonifacio, and resident of Oyster Bay. I live at 3 Sampson Street in Oyster Bay. Good evening, everyone. I'm coming here tonight because first of all, I grew up in Oyster Bay. I've lived here all my life, and Oyster Bay is a beautiful place, and I enjoy living here. I moved, I live on 3 Sampson Street now, and I'm actually here tonight because I wrote a petition in regards to the dilapidated and unsafe roadways on Sampson and Adams Street in Oyster Bay. Our roads are in dire need of repair. There have been several injuries on our blocks, which is concerning for all residents and pedestrians that walk these streets. Speaking with neighbors that have lived here for well over 30 years, they've stated that these roads have never been repaved. I spoke with a resident tonight, and they've lived here for 42 years. It's never been repaved at all. There have been numerous complaints sent to the Highway Department addressing our concerns. Their answer was to patch certain areas which have made the conditions worse. I've lived there for 13 years. All I've seen is patching. As tax-paying residents of the town of Oyster Bay, this is unacceptable and affects our quality of life to the point where our children are unable to ride their bikes on these roads. We are requesting that the town of Oyster Bay Highway Department immediately address this issue by scheduling Sampson and Adams Streets roads to be repaved and not patched. And I have signatures of all the residents, and I also have pictures of all the potholes. And
So we fully understand what I have found here, been here for a little over 9 months. What I have found is over and over again, there was capital money put into buildings, put into our parks. We have in the top 10% of parks in the United States. Well, including the top 10 parks, among those are Town of Oyster Bay parks. So there was lots of capital money put into our parks, put into our facilities, and the roads went unpaved. We all know that. So now, the capital money that we are borrowing in this budget, because we're talking about budgets,
Right.
will be used for repaving our roads. This year, without borrowing any additional money, we went back and found unused capital monies in previous years' budgets and went right to work. Every day, our crews have been out paving. We came up with a new assessment system to have a fair way to do that. We are very sensitive to you, to your neighbors, and your concerns. I'd like to ask Mr. John Bishop to please come forward. He's the person in charge of overseeing our roads are paved, and so we can get you the relief you deserve. Mr. Bishop, please give us an update on these roads, Sampson and Adams Streets.
I do have them, John Bishop, Deputy Commissioner, Highway Department. I do have them captured. Off the top of my head, I think the paving for Sampson was about $353,000. So we're just adding that and then moving forward.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, of course.
They are patching as we speak today.
Yes.
They're patching the road, but what they're doing is they're patching in a way that's about 20 feet on both sides and leaving about 4 feet in the center as being untouched.
So it looks like a quilt, in other words.
Absolutely. So we have patch over here on one side, on the east side, and then on the west side. But then straight down the middle, there's absolutely no patching. They've done it in front of my house to about where my walkway enters the house. They stopped. And it's just a really bad patch job that they're doing. And we just want to have this entire road, the road right now is lopsided. You can see the road lopsided. They have about a foot down dug of paved, old
Right.
paved that
It's been milled.
Milled.
Yeah, because they'll mill it, and then they're gonna patch it, and then crack seal it. Because the goal is that now that the winter is approaching, you don't want to try and put down a new road surface, and then have the winter come, and then plows rip up all the new markings, the line striping, everything.
But, Mr. Bishop, does this mean that the residents can expect a full paving job in the spring?
That's what we're looking forward to, which we're combining all of this information, because there are a lot of residents.
How early, because I don't want them waiting for a long period of time, how early can they expect that job to begin, the full paving job?
A full paving job, we're looking at the new road restoration requirement contract, providing that the areas do not need any curb drainage or any other concrete, and it's just road surfacing. Under the road restoration contract, you can look at the spring to summer to fall of next year.
I don't want them waiting till late summer or fall. I want them
There are a lot
to get
of,
this done in spring.
there are a lot of these roads that have been hit hard, and we're trying to do the best we can to give them a drivable surface, as the Councilwoman Alessi had said, that we had, tried to achieve on Country Drive and a lane in Plainview that was horrible. Cars were bottoming out and needing, repairs.
Commissioner, there's no secret that we have an old community, the roads are dire, need to be redone.
I mean,
I'm looking out towards Colin Bell. Colin, can we get some state or federal money for this?
Yeah, there is some available state funding that can be applied.
33. Adams, EDMS.
Please, if we have to send letters, just whatever we have to do to get some money, because not only the hamlet of Oyster Bay, Syosset, Hicksville, Farmingdale, Massapequa.
It's everywhere.
Plainview,
It's
everywhere
everywhere.
is needed.
Yeah.
And our road has
Glenhead.
a lot of heavy traffic, because it's like a cut through, so it's constantly,
Yeah.
And I think our major concern is that this patch that's going in right now is, okay, it's done, and then we don't look at, we see it for another 3-4 years the same way. That's our
Well, you're
biggest concern.
coming here tonight, and we can assure you, and I'm going to assure you by directing Mr. Bishop to
Correct.
make sure that this road is fully repaved and that they're not waiting till the end of the summer or the fall. That's not acceptable. Just so you know, for whatever relief it might be, this is not a problem that is just the town of Oyster Bay is experiencing. As I talk with leaders in all of the Long Island communities and quite frankly throughout the state, we have had increasingly colder winters year after year, and all the municipalities are feeling the bite or the damage that the cold weather has done. Water gets in there, it expands in the cold and tears up the streets. So this is a big expense that every municipality is dealing with. I don't believe that enough attention had been given to our roadways as the years have been going by, as I stated earlier. But their road needs a lot of help. The residents have made it very, very clear, and we need to make it clear to them that we're making a full repaving of Sampson and Adams Street a very high priority. Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
Supervisor.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Sure, please leave it with the clerk, absolutely.
They'll give me a copy.
Mr. Supervisor, before you call up the next speaker, may I
Yes.
just make a comment?
Yes, certainly.
Both this morning and this evening, we've had members from the water districts present to help with the budget hearings, and they haven't been called upon, but I'd like to recognize them for the fine work they do in their communities. The ladies and gentlemen are here tonight representing many of the water districts within our community, and I publicly want to thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Our next speakers are Glenn and Alfred Putlock. Yeah. While they're coming up here, Mr. Bell, would you ensure that not only are we using our traditional means of applying for grants on road work, but we're also contacting the state assembly member and the state senator of that region to ensure that we're making a very strong statement in requesting state monies through any member items, monies that they can provide us.
Supervisor, we can submit a letter lobbying for funds.
Let's do that again, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for being
nice
with
to meet
us. Could you state your names and your address?
I'm Glenn Putlock. I live at 72 8th Street in Hicksville. And this is my father, Alfred Putlock, lives at 93 8th Street, across the street from me. We met you at the Veterans Barbecue.
Yes, yes, I do remember. Thank you for your service to America.
We're here about an ongoing bamboo situation. We
That's 5 years old already.
sent a letter to you and Councilwoman Alicia, and we really need this to pass. We've been dealing with this for 5 years, and it's from the ongoing neighbor behind me. It's affecting my house terribly.
The property.
We have a pool, so on, an in-ground pool, and I'm paying taxes for that. And it's just, we really need help on this. There's a lot of other people affected also by this. So,
Mr. Zeik, would you please come forward? Let's talk about the status of our bamboo legislation.
certainly. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Tim.
Hi.
How are you? Tim. Supervisor, good evening. Tim Zeik, Deputy Commissioner of Planning and Development. As you're well aware, the town board entertained a hearing before the board, obviously, to have a ban on bamboo. If it is to be planted in private property, there is a permit process that could be done through the Department of Planning and Development. I believe we're just waiting on final word to approve that legislation, and once enacted, you know, we can get to work enforcing the regulations, so.
Do you have any questions in the way the legislation has been written or any aspect of it that you would like to see included?
No, we just would like to see it as quick as possible.
Passed as quickly as
So it would
possible.
help our situation and out. I mean, we sent a lot of pictures into you
Yes.
along with the letter, which you got.
Yes. We
So,
understand the dilemma, and
It's a
we are,
5-year-old problem. We've been petitioning and petitioning our people and here, and with no response.
We passed it this morning.
yes. This morning on our resolutions, we passed the legislation, so now we have it in place. So what
Okay.
I'd like you to do is send an inspector out to the house tomorrow to make sure that we enforce this code so that we can help these kind folks to get this problem alleviated.
No problem, Supervisor. Matter of fact, if they have 2 minutes, I'll grab them, get their
Please.
information and follow up with them.
Okay, so we'll get the follow-up started tonight,
Okay.
and tomorrow we'll begin the process.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Type of bamboo that this particular guy picked up, and he made sure it went into his property.
And now it's affecting the two other neighbors right next to me this
2 other
year.
houses are being affected by the same.
So if you want to go in the back area or outside so that you can get all the information and we can get moving on this. And you'll find the town of Oyster Bay can be just as aggressive as the
Okay.
bamboo.
Thank you.
All right, I think she has all the pictures and things, right?
I do, I absolutely
Okay.
All right, if you need any more, let me know.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. God bless you, and thanks for coming in.
you.
Sounds like I'm taking a ride tonight.
Tim, if you need copies of anything, don't hesitate to reach out to my office.
No problem. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Our next speaker is Thomas Hessel. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Supervisor and council people, thank you for your time. My name is Tom Hessel. I live at 9 Tacoma Lane in Syosset. And I saw on Facebook and through Patch that the town, I think Supervisor, you had a big hand in this, in trying to improve and repair parks and parklets around the town. and it's fantastic. Over the past few years, I'm now in Syosset, maybe 5 years. Not long after I moved in, I actually live on a parklet, SO7, and it doesn't really have a name. We call it Tacoma Park, but and at the time, I had noticed that somebody had set fire to the plastic play equipment and burned it in an arson incident. I called the fire department. This was like 2 weeks after I'd moved in, and they came rapidly and put out the fire. And they said that there was, at the time, that summer, a chain of similar incidents of burning plastic play equipment, just, delinquents. Town was very good in coming in, removing the equipment, it's because it was unsafe and got it out of there, and then there was nothing. So I called the town and I spoke to John Raymond. I don't know if he's still with the town, but and he was very receptive. It was hard to get in touch with, but I did have some conversations with him about replacing that equipment and moving on that. And I was told, they're looking for money, and it's not the right season, and this is over a number of years and a number of conversations. And then I was shocked to see I was happy to see that the parks are being improved, and in the list, both on, maybe it was misreported, but on the list for Patch and for Facebook, Tacoma Park was not on the list for parklet improvement, despite being told that it was a priority after a park in Farmingdale, maybe. I think that was on the list. I don't know. And there's been nothing. And over that time, now there's weeds growing there. There are railroad ties holding the gravel in place that are falling apart. Landscaping spikes that are rusty are now poking up. I've spoken to a number of residents in that area, say they don't even bring their kids there anymore because of the risk. The paint is chipping. There's graffiti. It's really neglected. I still see a lot of people there regardless, because we still love that park. But I was told that it would be addressed, that it was a priority, and then parklet improvements came out, and then there was nothing. And I love pickleball, but brand new pickleball courts, when we have exposed nails in Tacoma Park.
I understand entirely. Let's get you some relief. This is our Parks Commissioner. And what I'd like you to do is step out front with him, please, Mr. Hessel.
Yes.
Describe all the specifics, and then I'd like you to make a report to me in the morning on how we're going to get this park totally rehabbed.
I'll give it to you right now.
Oh, good.
First of all, Mr. Raymond hasn't been with the Parks Department since the end of March.
Okay, but that's neither here nor there.
But what we'll do is we'll send a crew out there tomorrow.
Good.
Spruce it up, clean it up, try to make it as safe as possible with the spikes that are coming out to the ground.
Let's get that all fixed.
We'll analyze, the situation with regards to where we are with our budget and if we could purchase another playground set and switch it out.
Good.
Commissioner, we're gonna make sure that the grass is cut.
Yeah.
The railroad ties that are rotten and spikes come out removed.
Yeah.
Regardless of if we put the swing set in right away or not, we're gonna make so at least these kids go and kick a ball around now without worrying about getting hurt.
And the Parks Department has been excellent about mowing the lawn. So it's not ignored. I mean, the guys do come through and mow the lawn, but it's that equipment. And I was told that it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen. And it's like, wait, and
To be honest
it didn't
with you, since
happen.
I've been there, I haven't heard that S7 was in need, but, now that you told us, we'll put this on the radar.
Ms. Hessel has made it very, very clear. The Syosset community is very important to us. We want to make sure that park gets the attention it needs and that you get the service you deserve.
Great.
So please report to us. If you report to my office tomorrow what the status is, and then we'll make sure that we continue to be on this. But would you please exchange numbers with the commissioner?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear you, by the way, about the roads. Tacoma Lane's been a mess for a while too, but as you said, it's a problem everywhere. But
It is, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't get to it. So, Mr. Bishop, you got it? Tacoma Lane in Syosset. Let's get right on that. Thank you so much for joining us and bringing this up. It's much appreciated. Next speaker is Rob Brusca. Bresca, sorry. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. I know it's been a long day. I'll make it a little longer for you, not too much longer.
That's okay.
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you, Rob.
Specifically to, I missed Resolution 663. It's just, I wanted to acknowledge and thank Parks Department Commissioner Pinto, and I'm not sure that I don't know if George is still a deputy commissioner, but Deputy Commissioner Baptista in the Parks Department in coordinating the improvement of Beekman Beach Overlook right up the street here. The Oyster Bay Lions Club is taking on a great project to be fully funded by the Lions Club, which is a great opportunity to improve the parks without obviously any expense to the municipality. And the Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner Baptista have been fantastic. Thank you for your support in that regard. It looks like they'll be putting shovels in the ground come the new year.
If not sooner.
Yeah, yes, I hope so. If they're in the midst of fundraising, but they already have substantial funds in place, and we appreciate the formal support. I haven't been here for a while, and I apologize just to stand here and thank a bunch of folks, but it's warranted. All of you are very receptive to the Oyster Bay Norwich community when outreach is made. We appreciate your presence here and your support at the various events. Particularly recently anyway, Commissioner Lenz of the Public Works Department has been fantastic. We've leaned on him substantially over the last several months, and his door is always open. Same with Commissioner Pinto, of course. And I saw Colin Bell back there. We're always leaning on Colin, as everyone is. He's the money guy. So, Colin, thank you very much. And just, I'm sorry again, but just to tick off some particularly helpful folks over the last little while. Mike Esposito in Code Enforcement has just been a very patient and practical and thoughtful individual down there by way of any number of folks asking for their support over time. As the building department is, Commissioner Macarone, one of your best first moves in office, Supervisor. I mentioned that to you previously, and Deputy Zeik, of course. And our local Public Works representative, Peter Brown, who mans up the department over on Lake Avenue. Peter is just always available to do anything for the Oyster Bay Norwich community, as I know he is for all of you folks. But again, we are not shy in leaning on him particularly. And one last thing with regards to, and I want to thank the folks with regards to the recent Oyster Fest cleanup. That can be a challenging event down here, as you all know. There are a couple 100,000 of our favorite friends come marching through Oyster Bay Norwich, and most of the time, at the end of the day, the village is probably in better shape than it was beforehand, and that goes to the attention that's paid to that event by Commissioner Pinto and Commissioner Lenz and all of you. So we do appreciate that very much. Thank you. Lastly, and thank you for your patience, is I know I believe there's an effort or already a decision to do away with the Public Safety Department, and I recognize the bad press that department perhaps has gotten. Maybe, I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know that Commissioner McCaffrey has been as accessible and responsive to this community as anyone has been, and sensitive to our valued Teddy Roosevelt Park here. I grew up here, I still live here, and I'm driving through here. I work here during the day. I'm here more than I need to be here probably. And to see the public safety individuals and their vehicles rolling through town, even though I recognize the restrictions, to have them around in another set of eyes, I wouldn't want them to not be around in total. I don't know what the effort's going to be with the county, if that's something that's happening, but I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, perhaps.
Bob, you're going to get your wish, I believe.
Okay, good. I'll shut up, I guess. I'll end on a positive note.
Just so you know, just to set the record straight, the governor proposed shared service monies and resources for consolidations. The county has been paying a lot of overtime to their public safety. There would be a $1.3 million savings, and then we'd get an additional $1.3 million from the state. The only way to discuss this is to have a proposal in place which opens the door to the discussions, to listen to the public, listen to their needs, listen to the board members and what their thoughts are on this. So the purpose of putting this resolution up, if you will, or this line item in the budget was to start the discussion. We have excellent public safety personnel. They have literally been saving lives this year. Many, but not all of them, many of them we've had in to give them commendations, to recognize them publicly, to recognize them here at board meetings. They have cross-training in so many different areas, most importantly in life-saving techniques, CPR, and other types of first aid. They are hazmat trained. The list goes on and on and on. We're very proud of our workforce, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to govern in a very full manner that looks at everything and leaves no stone unturned. So all of this is in an effort to assure the public that we are doing everything possible to explore tax savings and consolidations, as is our responsibility. I want to thank you very much for recognizing a multitude of our personnel for the jobs they've been doing. I was at the Oyster Fest both on Saturday and Sunday, and when the Oyster Fest ended, I didn't leave. I was there to...
I noticed that.
You saw that.
There had to be food.
But most importantly, I was there to be a watchful eye, to watch over exactly how the cleanup went, the process, and I'm just thrilled and proud of our workforce. They have done an amazing job. I wanted to make sure that the job was done right. It's my first Oyster Fest as the supervisor. Some of my colleagues were there throughout the days, but I was there to ensure, and quite frankly, it was a pretty easy job on my part, even though I was there till after dark. They really did an amazing job. I'm so, so proud of them. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it very much. And I know it's campaign season. It sounds like less than sincere comments to all of you, but campaign season or not, I'd like to think I'm sincere. I know I'm sincere.
You are.
And you guys, and the representatives do deserve all that praise. They get leaned on quite hard, and we appreciate you leaning on them for us. And one gentleman I forgot to thank, because I grew up with him and frankly just does a great job for this community, is Rich Lamarca, who's a very valued member of the town of Oyster Bay. So I just want to make sure you recognize all the good work that Rich does for this community and for the town as well. So thank you all very much. Good luck, everyone, come November, and thanks again for all the efforts.
Thank you very much, Robin. Thank you for all you've been doing. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's no one else that'd like to be heard, I thank you all for attending, and you'll be hearing more about the budget and the operations to save tax dollars and an ongoing effort. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
No, please, a Lone Star. Let's not try that.
Yes? Excuse me? Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. That we're reconvening on the, what did we say, the paper, is it 24th?
That's all right.
No, it's just, it doesn't, it's all right, it's just...
Okay. Yes, we'd just like to announce that we'll be reconvening on the 24th of October in relation to the budget at 10 a.m. 2 p.m. 2 p.m. And we'll be advertising this in all the normal ways. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
That's fine. We can all...